want to say this to start off with the talk, is that one of the themes that we have here is to see as God sees. And I want you to keep that in mind for this talk. If you had chosen an easier path and been born knowing how beautiful, deserving, and important you truly are, by this time you'd be worth billions of dollars, have millions of friends, and own businesses around the world. But then you wouldn't be exactly who you are right now. So, is it all in favor of keeping you just who you are right now? Would we vote for that? I do. All the wonderful beings of who you are. So, we continue to have traumatic events occurring in our lives, chaos and violence, both in nature and our life and relationships. And as a minister of metaphysics, it's my job to really look at things as God sees them, to help us understand what's going on in our lives, which I'm going to share with you today. So we have the wildfires in California that are burning hundreds of homes and leaving people homeless and possessionless because everything is lost in the fire. And think about just being in the moment with no attachments, no nothing. What do we choose to be and do in our life at that moment? Last August, I talked about the traumatic effects, the climatic effects that were affecting us with the flooding that happened in Florida and Texas. And I told you then, and remind you again, that there are very intricate relationships that exist between the psychological, human, collective thought flow and the ensuring weather effects and climatic patterns. That means that all of us, our collective thoughts combined together, play a major key role in our life. In other words, mass consciousness has an effect. And what that means is we are one with everything in the world. We are one with all of nature. Everything that goes on with nature is not separate from us. We are part of it. And the more that we acknowledge that and bless what's going on and knowing that the light is coming up for all of us, we can understand, hopefully, that humanity collectively can and do play a role in the formation and the effect of which everyone calls natural disasters, especially when there's times of polarization, political upheaval, and fear, which we've been having a lot of lately too. So all that energy coming together with our thoughts, the thoughts of the world. In this way, natural disasters often create a scenario which alters our priorities. It uplifts our collective thinking, and we start to feel that oneness with one another. And we have manners that bring about a higher good. And we enable this state of unity, feeling oneness with all, of mutual caring and assistance to other people in the face of the tempest that's going on. And this aspect of unity was seen quite strongly in the areas of the effects of the states that were affected by the hurricanes and the storms, Texas and California, Florida. And now we see that happening in California as well. People coming together. And survivors overwhelmingly expressing their gratitude at still being alive. Everyone that got interviewed said, the house doesn't matter. What matters is we're alive. Our neighbors are alive. That's what we want to connect to. And if we could hold that place all the time of love and gratitude and oneness for one another. And these traumatic events bring about a sense of renewed priority, a deeper understanding of the gift of life and the value of life. And we get to know and say, thank God I'm alive. And those that I know are alive. And what happens then is that we start to have a more renewed sense of harmony and love towards ourselves and one another. A greater understanding that changes these people for the better. And so even though they may be looked at as negative, we see the positive effect that comes out of it, which is those words that I have written down and will continue to talk about. The top two, or the bottom two that we started with, was oneness and consciousness. And so where's our consciousness at when we look at all of these? To see as God sees. Remember that. And then we had another school shooting close to us, losing 2 students and the shooter, creating upset and chaos in other students' and families' life. And we expressed concern and sadness for those who passed away from the physical and for their families. But as I said, as metaphysicians, we need to remember that every soul whose physical life ends in such events made the choice to do so in free will and higher purpose. I tell you that again, while difficult, such events bring better people together. They bring out the best in humanity, everyone pulling together to help one another, and we saw that happening in Aztec as well. So we look at the oneness, we look at our consciousness, because human consciousness is, remember what I said, it's all that we've thought, everything that we've taken in our lives from birth makes up our consciousness. And are we choosing to look at things from a bright place of love, or from pain and upset and judgment, separation. There's a lot of personal beliefs and race mind beliefs that we've all taken in and affected us, and a lot of them are not always the truth. So that's why we want to get clear in new thought here, why we're here, to get clear about what it is that we want to, how do we want to look at things? How do we want to look at other people? How do we want to look at the events that are happening in our life? So with all that's happening in the world, we need to connect to the light stronger, the light of who we are. And that's the theme for this month, because it's Christmas, it's the holidays, and we're seeing a lot of light out there. The Christmas lights are out. But it's time for us, beloveds, to let the light shine within us. We have reached, so the first one, I'm going to share two things that I talked with you about last Sunday, just to remind you. The first one is about the month of December and how it has birthed forward, carrying the energy of a full moon. And we have another opportunity here of attainment of higher energies that's coming into us for us to open ourselves up to and claim our full power, our personal power within us. That's what this is all about. And this is a blessing moment for those who are ready to fully open their eyes and see. So we think that we're seeing with these eyes, and we do, but God sees in a different way. To be able to see what God sees, to think about that, beloveds, to be in the mind of God and to look at events from the way God looks at them. So as a result, during this month, it's time to pay attention to our third eye, sixth chakra here. And questions that we might ask are, what are you noticing around you with what's happening? What is it revealing? Again, to see God in everything and everyone. Yes, we as humans feel the pain of things that are happening, but at some point we need to go deeper than that. We need to see, because God doesn't see that. God sees unconditional love. And that's a huge term for us to even take on. To see that all the events that are happening come from a place of love and understanding. Our human consciousness, our human mind might look at it slightly different, but if we could really go, okay, what do I understand? That's what those two things. What are you noticing in your life? What's happening around you and inside of you? What's it revealing to you? Especially with all these current events going on, it's time for all of us to trust ourselves, to feel more inside what we're feeling and what is the truth of it. This third eye or sixth chakra will be expanding this month quite a lot as it gains strength from all your past experiences, which is your consciousness. So be awake, beloveds, that during this month, this is the time to recognize that every human being, you and everyone else, is gaining momentum and insights is perfect for their soul's evolution. That's what we're here for our soul to grow and for us to grow along with it. So keep awake during this whole month as to what's happening. The second thing I talked to you about was divine feminine. There are a lot of outer world events going on right now, especially with, as I mentioned, with all of the men accused of sexual abuse in politics and the theater and so forth. And I personally have a friend that is a soul student of mine that I've been working with for 2 years. And when I was talking with her on our last call last week, she told me of a situation when she was pregnant with her second child. Her and her husband, and her breasts were full because of milk for the child, and this is what happens with women. She went to a comedy show with a guy that was one of the top comedians at the time, and at the break, she went back to the bathroom. He came in and he made some sexual suggestion to her about her breasts and followed her into the bathroom and followed her breast, and she was like totally shocked and standing there, and he left, went back on the stage, did his show. She came out and didn't feel like telling anybody for a while. It took her a while to really open up and tell her husband what had happened and other friends. But she had to get to the place of forgiving it and letting it go, because back then that's what everything was hidden. Now that's why it's all coming up. All the energy of these events that have occurred before that got buried are now coming up because the light of the divine feminine is coming up, and how great that is. The feminine polarity of God within each of us is surfacing right now through the mass consciousness of humanity. So as I said, mass consciousness before, in connecting with everything, it's happening again with all of this. So it's time for all of us to share this truth, to help us grasp the magnitude of opportunities at hand, and to open ourselves up for this divine feminine energy to come in. And when we do, it will ignite deeper truth and power within us. It will bring a new reality of divine grace and joy and peace into everyone's life. So just think about that joy and grace and peace that we can experience within our lives. And the rise of the divine feminine has begun. And with this energy, it's very powerfully time to step into your soul purpose. Again, the reason why we're here. So that you can make a greater contribution to this world. You and every other being. And so the wait is over, beloveds, for the feminine to come in. And it's time to move forward. So, with those comments, it's now time to talk a little bit about being one in the light. I want you to remember, as I've talked here, God created us in its image and likeness. God created us with unconditional love. We have such deep stuff within us. We were born with this unconditional love, and it's time to really get in touch with that, because what happened is, growing up, we learned conditional love. We learned to put others ahead of us, to consider other people's needs before us. We have statements that says, what does it say? I just went blank. To think about others before ourselves. To give, not to receive. We need to open up to receiving as well. Now, it's good to think of others, to put them in the light, as we do here. We look at each other, we bless each other, we say put them in the light, but we have to start doing that for ourselves first, to connect to God within us first, and create our lives based on that. Now, because of conditional love, normally when something goes different in our life from what we wanted, the first thought we have is, what did I do wrong? I didn't want that. Or we judge ourselves, we judge what happened. We blame ourselves, and we feel maybe feeling wrong or not good enough, or shame within ourselves, or a number of other things. But what we need to do is change it around and claim being right, not wrong. There is no such thing as wrong. In fact, there's probably no such thing as right, because that's duality, which is one of those other words. What we want to connect to is the love, unconditional love for ourselves, and this is the time to do that. And how do we do it? Because we were created by God. We have God living within us. That's a great truth that we know here. Not somewhere outside of ourselves, judging us, sending us to hell, any of the other stuff. No. What there is unconditional love for ourselves and one another. And we need to learn to do that. 'Twas the month of Christmas, and on every single day I thought of the things that might brighten your way. And then it just hit me like a sleigh hits a roof, that with your own thoughts you could be your own proof. So choose them with care and lots of emotion, because it's what you're feeling that sets them in motion. And when the clock strikes 12 on a particular eve, you may not believe all that's under your tree. The truth is, God operates through us every moment of the day. God operates through everyone. There is not one person that is not connected to God and Source, whether they're consciously aware of it or not. Therefore, we can let every other person have their own connection to God. It's not our job to make them believe the way we believe. It's only time for us. And that is so important, to start loving ourselves. And that's what I want for all of you. So that when we have that, when we have issues going on in our life, we put energy into dealing with it by being, not so much doing. Let God come and do the doing, but for the be the being. And I felt this last night even stronger than I have. There's a prayer that we say Sunday mornings when we come here, and I do it in my meditation, which says, Father, Mother, Life, you are my life. You are my constant support. You are my protection. And I could feel that energy all around me, inside the cells of my body, in my car that I'm driving, in my house, in my money situation. There is God everywhere. How wonderful to feel that energy and know I'm okay. God is my protection. God is my life. I get up in the morning, God is my life. I get in my car to drive here, God is my life. We need to remember that and not worry so much about situations going on. Just let it go and say, okay, God, I'm being one with you. You take care of it. It's your job. My job is just to be connected to love. So I believe God wants you to know that the time has come to get clear about who you are and what you choose. There come moments in everyone's life when a decision is necessary, a big decision, a major choice. Such a time as now. What you get to choose today is who you are and who you will choose to be and what you choose to experience in your life. So remember, not to decide is to decide. So why not choose the truth? Why not choose the highest thing that you can connect to? And know that everyone is you are all your own authority on your life because of your own relationship to God. You're not authority over what other people think about you or other things or what they do, only for yourself. And the more that you do that, the more you open up to it and you be like a model to other people to do the same thing, then you've changed your mind. Maybe you've helped other people change their minds, not by telling them to do it, but by just being the model of that. So I believe God wants you to know that your light is seen, your heart is known, your soul is cherished by more people than you might imagine. Really take this in, what I'm going to say right now, beloveds, because it is true. We get so caught up in our individual lives and the aspects that are going on and the problems that we look at and this issue and that issue, when in fact, if we could open ourselves up and say, I have lots of love for other people, then they must have love for me. There must be other people out there that are holding the space of love. Why don't I open up to that and accept it in? And at the same time, by the love that you are, know that how many others have been touched in wonderful ways. If you knew that, you would be astonished. Because you relate to people or connect to people or are modeled to people that you don't even know where you're at during the day at your work or with friends or whatever it is. You have an effect on them. Be the positive effect of unconditional love. If you knew how many people felt so much for you, you would be shocked, because you are far more wonderful than you think you are. Rest with that, beloveds. Just breathe it in. Know that you are doing fine in your life. More than fine. Better than fine. You're doing great. So just relax. Love yourself today. Take God's love in. Right now, take it in and know that you are number one in your life in the light of God this month. You deserve it. And I want to end with a giving intention. The more joy I share, the more joy is coming to me. The more love I share, the more love is coming to me. The more peace I share, the more peace is coming to me. The more abundance I share, the more abundance is coming to me. As I give, I receive. As I radiate, I attract. Namaste. Any